There's ways of ending relationships that don't involve violence. Sometimes this idea seems to elude some folks. I don't know why, but it does. But getting out of a marriage because you can't afford divorce does not immediately, or really ever, open the door to murdering your partner to end the relationship. This, again, a point that eluded a woman in Missouri. We're going to be talking about that here. Carol Hughes out of the studio, but with us. You found this story. What was what was your first thoughts as you came across it?
My first thought was leave him.
Yeah.
Just because you're in a marriage. I get maybe you very low income, you can't afford a divorce, or you don't think you can get it.
Mm-hmm.
You can leave him. You could be separated. You don't have to legally reside with your husband just because you're married. People leave their spouses every day.
Mm-hmm.
Leave your husband. Even if you're married and you want to go off with your new boyfriend, just leave your husband, and then maybe the boyfriend can help you pay for the divorce.
Yes. Or
Murdering him,
yeah.
she sure ain't gonna get to live with the new boyfriend.
No, it's not going to work out very well. But I am kind of
No.
shocked by the low sentence that she got, and
I know
we'll
it.
get to that. And it feels like murder's kind of gone down to like petty theft in terms of like the sentencing people are get these days, at least the ones we've been talking about recently. It starts with a woman in Missouri who's going to be spending a decade behind bars after admitting that she shot her sleeping husband in the back of the head. Why? Because financial difficulties made divorce just too costly. On Monday, 16th Circuit Court Judge Jalilah Otto sentenced 42-year-old Melanie Biggins to 10 years in state prison for the 2022 killing of her husband. How do you say his name?
Etienne.
Etienne L. McEwan. That'd be a fun. Now, Etienne L. McEwan, ladies and gentlemen.
He sounds like a famous actor, doesn't he?
It does. It kind of sounds like, or royalty or something.
Mm-hmm.
I was speaking with Etienne L. McEwan the other day about what we're going to do about the peasants, but it turns out he was murdered by his wife. According to court records, Biggins reached a plea deal in which she pled guilty to voluntary manslaughter. In exchange, prosecutors dropped charges of first-degree murder and armed criminal action, averting a possible life sentence. Only
I guess that saves them some money, that they don't have to go to trial or something. And it's like, because
it's murder.
If you're sentenced to 10 years, don't you usually spend half of it in jail if you've been good?
Yeah, it's like usually like 20% after there's 20% left is kind of usually when, that kind of starts to come out. But it's first degree murder. She shot him in the head while he was sleeping.
Intentionally.
That's kind of like usually life sentence or death sentence, not like petty theft.
I know. People with weed used to get longer sentences than that.
There's still people in prison that are doing longer sentences because of weed. Authorities say officers with the Kansas City, Missouri Police Department responded to a 911 call around 1 a.m. on August 31st of 2022 at a home in the 1700 block of Gillespie Place. Biggins and McEwan's two young daughters, aged 10 and 11, great mom here, I'm sure, waved down first responders who went upstairs and found Biggins attempting CPR on her husband. Emergency personnel pronounced McEwan dead at the scene. Initially, Biggins claimed she woke to the sound of a gunshot and did not see who fired the weapon. Somebody's randomly in your bedroom shooting your husband in the head. She told investigators she found the front door open, suggesting an intruder might have been responsible. However, police found no evidence of forced entry and quickly ruled out suicide. Detectives recovered a pillow with a bullet hole and blood at the foot of the bed, along with a handgun containing a spent shell casing under a bunk bed in a nearby room. Purchase records showed Biggins had bought a revolver just a month earlier. She later acknowledged that she had hoped to leave McEwan for another man, but was unable to afford a divorce. Both daughters reported waking to a gunshot and finding their mother downstairs before returning to discover McEwan laying in bed, prompting one of them to call 911. Biggins initially denied owning a handgun or leaving the bedroom, but ultimately admitted to purchasing the weapon and expressed a desire to end her marriage. In sentencing Biggins, Judge Otto accepted the plea deal negotiated by public defender Edward S. Berrigan and the prosecution, resulting in a 10-year prison term for voluntary manslaughter. That's the attorney you want if you're in Kansas City, Missouri, because he's able to get first-degree murder down to manslaughter in 10 years after you murder him with your children present and you have the gun hidden under one of their bunk beds. What could possibly go wrong there?
These poor kids. And she had to have been thinking this through, like how she could do it and how she could get away with it.
It's premeditated. She bought the gun.
She bought the gun. She shot him and had a story. Oh, there was an intruder. Seriously, if you heard a gunshot in your house, the first thing you would do is make sure your kids and your husband's okay.
Yeah.
But instead, this woman's downstairs, and it sounds like the girls found their dad.
Was it their dad?
And I don't know.
Or was it just another man? And I don't know.
I don't know.
I don't, because it never really
refers.
It never really refers to the man as the dad. So I don't know. But I don't know how on earth you get 10 years for this.
It's all, she thought about it. She's like, okay, I'm going to shoot him in his sleep. I'm going to say there was an intruder. Doesn't she ever watch Dateline? Or, even if you've just seen a couple episodes on ID or Dateline or 48 Hours, you know how to do some things to cover up your crime. She did nothing.
I think
I'm just going to throw the spent shell casing and under the bunk bed. They'll never find it.
If there's anything we've learned in doing this show, I think it's that a lot of murderers don't watch Dateline and they don't watch anything true crime, and they think they're smarter than The Room.
You're right about that. And that makes no sense because Dateline and all those shows, this included, is just a lesson in how to do it. What you need to think through.
We should start at just how to commit a murder.
Because that's what we're doing right now.
Exactly.
It's like, if you're going to commit the murder, then you got to think these things through, which she obviously did not. And, if you want to leave your husband because you're into another guy and you want to move in with him, I think the first thing you don't want to do is murder your husband, because that guy's not going to be around. He's going to be like, she murdered her husband. I could be next. You wouldn't stay with the girl who just murdered her husband?
No.
So that ended that relationship too. Now she's going to jail. Not for long enough though.
Well, maybe she'll meet somebody like on the jail matching system where outsiders can mail into people and find love. It happens all the time.
All the time.
Yeah. Look at who I'm thinking of right away with that one. The former owner of a defunct theme park in Wichita, Kansas, with a giant hat, who met his love in prison and then defrauded a church and went to prison. And then he went off to sell alpacas, probably defrauding people somewhere else. But it happens. I don't know how or why, or...
That's like that could be an entire podcast, like 10 episode podcast.
That really could be a very interesting story to tell. Wild West World, everyone. If you want to look that up, I think we did a piece on it a while ago. We didn't. I saw one. That's what I'm thinking. We saw somebody did a kind of a, I don't want to say a half-assed documentary, but it was a half-assed documentary on YouTube. It really wasn't that professionally done, but it was interesting. So it's like a lot of stuff on YouTube, but it was interesting. It really told the story of just how screwed up that situation was. And here's the thing. I guess if you're in prison, you'll probably take whatever you can get. I guess you got to put yourself in that sort of a mindset. But if you're, I guess, not in that mindset, maybe a healthier mindset, wouldn't the first red flag be that your partner is randomly mailing you something from outside into jail looking for love? That might be you can't find it out here, but you want it this way. But I think that's a big positive to some people who don't want to be They want the feeling of being in a relationship without the responsibilities, I guess, of being in a relationship.
Well, it's like people like the Menendez brothers. That
Sure.
one of them got married in prison.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I just don't get it. I mean, that's a deal breaker to me. For me, smoking is a deal breaker, let alone the fact that he's in prison. That would be a deal breaker for me.
The only way I could ever see it is if you really believe the person is completely innocent, and they truly are. You're not just like hot for the person, but it's like it was a sham of a trial and they were convicted, and they were railroaded into something, and you're trying to help with their case. You're trying to fight for them, and then a
Maybe.
relationship develops. I can get that a little bit, but not just this. Anyway, not that she's getting a relationship in jail yet, but who
Well,
knows?
now she doesn't get to be with the new guy because she's going to jail instead.
What? Not that harsh penalties have ever really deterred criminals or people from doing horrible things,
Obviously,
but
yeah.
what is this? What does this say to somebody out there who's in her same sort of position? Oh, she only got 10 years. I don't have any money. Gotta be cheaper, be better. I'll do that. I can do 10 years if I just. Does that flip that switch in some people going, well, in Missouri, you only get that?
And you know what really bothers me about all of this as well is obviously she wasn't thinking about her own kids.
No, not at all.
They were just whatever.
No, she was thinking about getting with a new man, and she thought she was smarter than everybody. Again, all roads lead to narcissism. So I'm guessing there's a tinge of that in her repertoire. And she thought that she could easily explain this away, that somebody broke in and shot him, and she was too stupid to think they're not going to search the house for a gun that she hides under a
Yeah.
fucking bunk bed.
And these poor children, not even thinking about what this could do to them. This
Well,
person was murdered.
honest to God, if there's any silver lining to this story, it's the fact that mom is going to be out of their lives for the next 10
Yes.
years. So I take that as a win, because had mom continued to be mom and knowing what a shitty, dumb, idiotic person she is, the girls are better off. And
Mhm.
I'm hoping there's someone in their lives that can take them in, hopefully family, and they don't just go into the system. And hopefully that family is a little bit better than where she came from. That's not always the case though.
I
Sometimes
don't
it's,
know.
it's the
Yeah.
pattern, but sometimes you get the odd duck that goes off and does their own thing and screws up their life, and mom and dad are like, "I give up. There's nothing
Yeah.
more I can do for you." Maybe that will be the case here. I do not know,
Well,
but
she obviously put this new guy above her own kids.
yeah.
Like, I want to get with that guy, so I'm going to murder this guy with my kids in the house. They're going to be the ones calling 911. Run outside, wave down the emergency vehicles when they show up. I'll be up here doing CPR trying to save his life. Like,
And
that is so horrific.
and she will probably be offended when no one gets her a Mother's Day card.
Hmm.